Breaking news today. Moderna has announced the results of the randomized phase 2-3 study, Kid Cove. This is the study that everyone has been waiting for with bated breath. These are children between the ages of 6 months and 6 years old, and they are reporting the results of that portion of the randomized control trial. Now, of course, the company reports that they have achieved victory. They've achieved the primary endpoint of the study, which is, of course, the all-important, the very important endpoint, non-inferior geometric mean antibody titers. Okay, it's antibody titer data. It's non-inferior to an older age group benchmark. That's not exactly the primary endpoint I would have liked. I would have liked something that's actually a measure of, net clinical benefit. Call me an old-fashioned doctor. But that's the primary endpoint of the study, and that looks like what the FDA will accept for EUA. But they also reported something far more interesting. They reported the actual vaccine efficacy in a randomized controlled trial of this vaccine, their old ancestral mRNA vaccine that was being given in the face of an Omicron wave. And here's what they find. For the older age group kids between the ages of, for the younger age group kids from 6 months to 2 years, it was 43.7%. And for 2 to 6 years, it was 37.5%. They say the 95% confidence interval excludes 0, but they don't say what I want to hear, which is a point estimate above 50% and a 95% confidence interval that excludes 30. Now, why do I pick those numbers? Those numbers of a 50% vaccine efficacy and a 95% confidence interval that's above 30. Those are the pre-specified numbers of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in the summer of 2020, back when we were all worried about when the vaccine would come out. For different reasons. When we were worried about when the vaccine would come out, those were the numbers the FDA demanded to see from this vaccine product. Now you have an old ancestral mRNA strain vaccine. By the way, I thought the virtue of the mRNA platform was that they could swap out the middle part real quick and get some clinical trial data real quick. Anyway, that's a separate issue. You got the old original strain being given at a 25 microgram dose twice to these kids, young kids, and you have a, around 40% vaccine efficacy in this randomized control trial. And that's quite low. And I think people have to consider that if this were being submitted on the initial guidance, it would fail. It simply has a vaccine efficacy that is lower than the pre-specified FDA threshold in the summer of 2020. Now, this trial also talks about the fraction of kids that have, the press release at least, the fraction of kids that have fever over 38 degrees, and it looks like it's in the teens, and the fraction of kids that have fever over 40 degrees Celsius, and that looks like, 0.2%. That's low. It simply doesn't have the power or the ability to detect other side effects. I think the other notable thing here is we're maybe entering a very interesting situation where the only available product under EUA for kids in this age group for 6 months to 4 years and 11 months and 29 days is going to be the Moderna product, and it's going to be at a 25 microgram times 2 dose. But if you were 5 years old or above, you could get the Pfizer product, and the Pfizer product will be at a 10 microgram dose times 2. So potentially, if you're 1 month older, you could get a arguably lower dose of a different product, but a lower microgram dose of a different product. Now, Pfizer's testing a 3 microgram dose in this age group times 3. I think many people, particularly people who have a young child who's had and recovered from an Omicron, a healthy young child, are going to wonder about the balance of considerations that go into deciding whether or not that person should get 25 micrograms of Moderna. Elsewhere in their press release down below, they actually notify us Moderna will update its submission to the FDA for emergency use of a 100 microgram 2-dose primary series in adolescents to 12 to 18. Oh, really? Just what we were looking for. 2 doses of 100 micrograms in 12 to 18. That wasn't exactly on the top of my wish list in terms of what I wanted from Moderna. Moderna has, in boys between the ages of 16 and 26, a much higher rate of myocarditis than the Pfizer product. It might be due to the dose, it might be due to the specific product, but it is much higher. And for that reason, a number of European nations, sensible places on Earth, have decided to prioritize Pfizer over Moderna in that group. Strangely, the United States doesn't. The United States doesn't really make those kind of strong and bold decisions. Interesting. Well, these are the results of the study. I think people who are waiting anxiously for this vaccine product at a young age will eagerly await these results, but we have to remember the vaccine efficacy has been directly measured. It's in the 40s, 43 in the youngest age group, and 37 and change in the older age group from 6 months to 6 years. It's lower bound confidence interval, we'll have to see where it is. I would doubt significantly that it's above 30%. And the point estimate is certainly not above 50%. So we're going to have to ask ourselves, is it prudent for the US FDA to use the EUA authorization for this product that by their own rules, had they submitted in the summer of 2020, would not have met those criteria? So I'll be interesting to know. I also know something very interesting on the Moderna website. When you look and you read the press release, and the upper right-hand corner, they do make note of their stock price and their stock symbol. Interesting. So those are my thoughts on this breaking news out of Moderna, kids vaccination. What will it mean for young kids, particularly those who've had this virus before? What are we going to think about the dose optimization? Why are we still using the old original ancestral strain? What about that vaccine effectiveness in the high 40s at best, and beneath the FDA's pre-specified mark? We'll see, but that's not the primary endpoint of the study. The primary endpoint of the study is, of course, non-inferior geometric mean antibody titers. Not exactly what I think is most important in life. Non-inferior geometric mean antibody titers. To be honest, of all the antibodies I make, I don't really know the titers of most of them. I have never had those checked. So we shall see. We'll see what happens with this. Until next time.